I'm Talia Reese. Thanks for listening. The United States has a problem. Only about half of our population is literate at a high level. These statistics are disturbing, and action needs to be taken as quickly as possible to resolve this issue for the future. One of the best ways, I think, to resolve this issue and fight this wave of illiteracy is to promote reading programs in libraries and schools for children and youth. I hope to demonstrate that point today by going over what illiteracy is and why it's a problem in the first place. Also by going over why illiteracy is spreading so quickly, and finally by going over why reading programs are a good counterpoint to illiteracy. But what is meant by this literacy anyway? Well, to start with, what literacy is the ability to read and write, or is it? Literacy may not be measured sometimes as a binary can or can't, but rather as a sliding scale of proficiency. One such instance of being measured like this is in the Program for the International Assessment of Adult Competencies, or the PIAAC. This long-term academic ability study is being run by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, with the results being hosted on the National Center for Education Statistics website. I got my information from the three subpages: What PIAAC Measures, U.S. Skills Map, and Highlights of PIAAC 2017 U.S. Results. The test measures literacy on a 500-point scale with 5 distinct levels of literacy. 2017 results pointed out that only about 48% of U.S. residents met the requirements to be at or above level 3 literacy, meaning they could parse through multi-page documents and pick out multiple pieces of information from documents. The state of Nebraska fared slightly better than the national average, at about 53% meeting or beating the level 3 requirements on estimate. However, this is still a rather disturbing number. And illiteracy is such a big deal because literacy at a basic level is fundamental to modern society. In an article titled "Why is Literacy Important?" written in 2020 for the website The Education Hub, the author goes over many different reasons why literacy is important and many things that less literate people might struggle with or even find impossible, including the ability to convey and decipher complex ideas and instructions in written form. So how is illiteracy spreading so quickly throughout our nation? Well, I think it's because of an improper utilization of school resources by students. David Rosen, an author for the website Pro Literacy, wrote in a 2023 article titled Causes of Low Adult Literacy in the U.S. about several things that, during the early childhood stages developing literacy, could cause roadblocks and ultimately result in a low level of literacy. Among that list is stress in the home, a lack of literate adult figures, medical issues and developmental disabilities, and learning English as a secondary rather than primary language. These are the sorts of things that could cause someone to not read any more than they absolutely had to. And this is the problem. It's not a poor quality of reading, it's a lacking quantity of reading. If we can get people to read more, then their skills will develop faster and stronger. So how do we get people to read more? Well, I think summer reading programs are a great solution. Reading programs, in case you don't know, are programs run by an entity, typically a library or a school, to encourage a specific demographic, typically teens or children, to read more. I remember as a child going through the summer reading programs at the Gehring Public Library many times. The participants in these programs would read a specific amount of time, and then they'd be given some sort of a prize as a reward. To see how these programs were affecting levels of literacy in adults, I talked to librarians Elaine Bleich at the Leeds Scottsbluff Public Library, and Haley Grams and Director Christy Clark of the Gehring Public Library. Representatives from both libraries stated that their programs were designed to prevent what they called the summer slump, which is the loss of academic ability over the course of the summer when the children are not practicing their skills actively. They also both said that they had a great retention of people from one year's program to the next. The Gehring Library's director specifically stated that during her tenure, she'd seen many people who started in the children's program continue attending reading programs throughout their years and eventually end up in their adult program. Book It by Pizza Hut is another successful reading program. It works much like the ones above. The student reads, and in return, they get pizza from the restaurant. John Dreyfus, in a 1985 article for the Los Angeles Times titled Achieving Pizza Minds Through Reading, states that, even back then, millions of students had been affected by Book It, and about 3/4 of them were reading above their punching weight. There is some concern that Book It and similar programs, by giving extrinsic motivation, could be resulting in poor intrinsic motivation to read. However, these were put to rest in 1999 when Stephen and David Flora published Effects of Extrinsic Reinforcement for Reading During Childhood in Volume 49 of the Psychological Record. They stated that in their study of Book It users who were now college students, that Book It participation did not affect intrinsic motivation at all, but that it may have helped to create intrinsic motivation in the first place. And given that in the number of positive testimonials I've heard about Book It from people who were in it, I think it's safe to say that Book It and programs like it can succeed in their goal of creating avid readers. And that's about where things stand at the moment. We have our problem being that half of the country is less literate than the other half. Then we have our potential cause being that people aren't reading enough. And then we have our solution in the promotion of reading programs. There are many things you could do across the board to increase the level of reading that goes on. However, I think that promoting reading programs is one of the best. Anybody can promote reading programs, or even join in the fun themselves. And these programs have been shown to have results that last into adult life. If you promote these programs, you just might get someone hooked on reading for the rest of their lives. Thanks for listening.